In today's video, you'll learn something that can really help you. So like it and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. Let's get started.
The sun was rising over the plains when biologist Laura Chun slammed on the brakes of her pickup truck. Her eyes could not believe what they were seeing. There, less than 50 meters away, a gray wolf was lying beside a baby giraffe. Not hunting, not attacking, protecting. Laura turned off the engine with trembling hands. She had worked in that reserve for 12 years and had never witnessed anything like it. The wolf, whom she quickly recognized as Asher, a solitary male that had been roaming the region for months, was positioned protectively around the little giraffe. The calf, which could not have been more than 2 weeks old, trembled while pressed against the predator's furry body. Through her binoculars, Laura noticed something disturbing. Asher had deep wounds on his left flank, claw marks, dried blood stained his silvery fur, and the giraffe, so fragile and small, had scratched legs and dirt stuck to the dried tears around her eyes. Something terrible had happened to both of them. Laura grabbed her camera and began taking pictures. She needed proof because no one would believe her. A wolf caring for a natural prey animal? Impossible. It contradicted everything science taught about animal behavior. But there it was, right before her eyes, the impossible happening. Suddenly, Asher lifted his head. His ears stood upright. Laura followed his gaze and felt a chill run down her spine. A few meters away, moving through the low vegetation, was a pack of jackals. 5, maybe 6 of them, and they were getting closer. The wolf slowly stood up, placing himself between the jackals and the giraffe. A low growl came from his throat. The little giraffe tried to stand, but her thin legs gave out. She fell again, completely helpless. Laura grabbed the radio. She needed a call for backup. But before she could speak, Asher lunged forward. Even wounded, even alone, he charged at the jackals with a ferocity that made Laura hold her breath. The battle was just beginning. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment telling what you thought and which city or country you were watching from. The jackals retreated momentarily, but they did not flee. They knew that territory better than anyone. They were led by an experienced female, with mottled fur and a calculating gaze. Laura called her Shadow, and she knew that Pack was responsible for several violent attacks in the region. Asher could not win that fight. He was wounded, weak, and it was many against one, but he did not retreat a single inch. His paws planted firmly on the dusty ground while blood dripped from his wounds. Behind him, the little giraffe let out a thin, almost inaudible whimper. Laura needed to do something. Anything. But interfering with nature was against all protocols. Her hand hesitated over the radio while tears burned in her eyes. How could she choose between following the rules and saving 2 innocent lives? That was when she noticed something strange. The jackals were not attacking directly. They circled, tested, provoked, as if they were waiting for something. Or someone. Asher growled again, louder this time. But Laura realized it was not just aggression. There was desperation in that sound. He knew he was losing strength. With every passing second, his paws trembled more. The blood kept flowing. The little giraffe tried to move closer to him, as if she wanted to help. Her thin legs slipped on the dry earth. She fell again. This time, Asher quickly turned his head, checking if she was okay. In that brief moment of distraction, 2 jackals lunged in from the sides. Laura shouted without thinking. The sound echoed across the empty plain. Asher dodged at the last second, his fangs glinting in the morning sun. He grabbed one of the jackals by the neck and hurled it away. The animal yelped in pain and ran off limping. But the attack had taken its toll. Asher was panting now. His yellow eyes blinked slowly. Laura saw when his front legs faltered. He was about to faint. Shadow noticed it too. She let out a short, sharp bark. It was the signal. The entire pack charged at once. Asher tried to get up, but his body did not respond. He fell onto his side, kicking up a cloud of dust. The giraffe was alone now, and the jackals were closing in, hungry. Laura threw the radio aside and slammed her foot on the accelerator. The pickup truck roared toward the jackals, kicking up a curtain of dust. The animals scattered in fright, buying a few precious seconds. She knew she was breaking every rule, but she could not stand by and watch that happen. She jumped out of the vehicle with the first aid kit and ran to Asher. The wolf was conscious, but breathing with difficulty. His yellow eyes stared at her with a mixture of distrust and exhaustion. Laura slowly extended her hand, showing she was not a threat. To her surprise, Asher did not growl. He only looked at the giraffe, then at Laura, as if he were asking for help. While examining the wolf's wounds, Laura began to understand. The claw marks were not recent. They were at least 2 days old, and the pattern was characteristic. Jackals. The same pack that was there now had attacked Asher before. But why was he protecting the giraffe? Laura quickly cleaned the wounds and applied an antibiotic spray. It was not ideal, but it would help prevent infections. Asher endured everything in silence, without taking his eyes off the little giraffe. That was when she noticed something that changed everything. The giraffe had bite marks on her legs. Old marks, the same size as the ones on Asher. They had been attacked together. Laura looked around and saw, a few meters away, remnants of fur stained with blood. Adult giraffe fur. Her heart tightened. The calf's mother had been killed there, and Asher must have been trying to defend his own territory when he was attacked by the same pack. Two survivors of a tragedy had found each other, and instead of following their instincts, they chose to protect one another. But the jackals were coming back. Laura could hear them regrouping in the low vegetation. Shadow barked again, more irritated this time. The human presence would not deter them for long. They were hungry, and they were determined. Laura helped Asher to his feet. The wolf staggered, but remained standing. She then picked up the little giraffe in her arms. The animal was heavier than she expected, but she managed to carry her to the pickup truck. Asher followed her, limping. For the first time, he trusted a human. But the escape would not be easy. Laura had barely closed the rear door of the pickup truck when the jackals attacked. Shadow leapt onto the hood, her claws scraping the metal. Laura jumped into the vehicle and turned the key, but the engine coughed and died. She tried again. Nothing. In the rearview mirror, she saw Asher barking furiously from the truck bed, trying to drive the predators away, even while trapped back there. The little giraffe curled up in a corner, trembling. Laura turned the key for the third time. The engine growled, hesitated, and finally started. She accelerated sharply. Shadow was thrown to the side, rolling in the dust. But two jackals managed to jump into the back along with Asher. The battle continued, even as the vehicle was moving. Laura looked in a mirror in horror. Asher was fighting with a ferocity she had never seen before. Even wounded, even exhausted, he would not allow the jackals to get near the giraffe. His fangs gleamed red. One of the jackals screamed and leapt out of the moving truck. The last one, however, was bigger, stronger. It lunged straight for the giraffe. Asher threw himself in front of it. The two creatures rolled violently. Laura slammed on the brakes, causing the jackal to lose its balance. In that instant, Asher grabbed it by the neck and, with his last burst of energy, hurled it out. The pack was left behind, their figures shrinking on the dusty road. Shadow howled one last time, frustrated, but she did not pursue them. She was wounded and had lost two members of her pack. Laura drove without stopping until she reached the rescue station. When she finally parked, her hands were trembling so much she could barely hold the steering wheel. She ran to the back and found Asher lying beside the giraffe. For a terrible moment, she thought he had died, but then he opened his eyes, and for the first time since Laura had known him, that fierce and solitary wolf seemed at peace. He had fulfilled his mission. He had protected the small life that nature had placed in his path. The veterinary team rushed to help, but when they tried to separate Asher from the giraffe, he let out a weak growl. He would not accept being taken away from her. Not now. Not ever. That bond was stronger than any instinct. 3 weeks had passed since that day. Laura visited Asher and the little giraffe every day at the rehabilitation center. The veterinarians had created a special space where the two could stay together. Separating them would have been too cruel after everything they had been through. Asher was recovering slowly. His wounds were healing, and he had gained weight. But the most impressive change was not physical. That solitary and fierce wolf now had a purpose. Every time the giraffe approached him, his eyes shone with something Laura could only describe as paternal love. The giraffe, whom the team began calling Aurora because of how she appeared at sunrise, was growing healthy and curious. She followed Asher everywhere, slept pressed against him, and when she was afraid, it was to the wolf that she ran. Their story spread quickly. Journalists from all over the world wanted to meet the wolf who had defied his instincts. But Laura kept access restricted. Asher and Aurora were not an attraction. They were survivors deserving peace. The Reserve Council met to decide their future. Some believed they should be returned to nature separately. Others thought it was impossible to keep a predator and prey together in the long term. The discussions were long and difficult. Then something unexpected happened. The local community mobilized. Families who had lived on that land for generations offered resources to create a protected sanctuary, a place where Asher and Aurora could live safely together. Laura cried when she heard the news. In 6 months, the sanctuary was ready. A wide space with shade, fresh water, and protection from predators. On the day of the transfer, Asher entered first, sniffing every corner. When Aurora followed him with her now steadier legs, he looked at Laura one last time. In that look, she saw gratitude. Today, years later, Asher and Aurora live in harmony. They prove that love knows no species, that compassion can be born from shared pain, and that sometimes family is not about blood, but about who chooses to stay by your side in the darkest hours. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Tell us in the comments what you thought and where you're watching from. Your participation means a lot.